Hi, everyone. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, and I'm sitting here with Luke Smith from EcoSeal. How you doing today, Luke?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. We're one for one for gentlemen with beards on this show. So it's nice to meet you. So what can you tell me about EcoSeal? What is it that you do?
Sure. I am in the process of commercializing a eco-friendly pesticide from New Mexico State. It's an essential oil-based pesticide, and we are right in kind of the proof of concept stage. So that kind of involves setting up some field trials in California to go after the organic market out there, and then continuing field trials here in New Mexico. And it's a pretty fun process. I'm learning a lot. My background's kind of from the business end. I just graduated with my master's in accountancy here from NMSU, so it's kind of a crossover for me. Multiple fields, if you will. So it's kind of fun. Uh, and it's fun being able to work on the business end as well as getting in the lab and performing some of these tests.
How did you originally come up with the idea? What led you to pursue pesticide?
So it's kind of a fun story. I was 2 summers ago. I was in line for a sweet internship in DC, and then I hit the fourth interview and bombed it. Just poof, done.
Oh,
Terrible. One of the worst interviews of my life. And so I ended up not having any work during my senior year, or between my junior and senior year of college. And I went and worked in an onion shed to bag onions for 12 hours a day.
that
And
that
during
sounds.
this
I was gonna say
this
that.
intense summer,
That sounds like the polar opposite of being out in DC.
oh, it was unbelievable. I spoke Spanish the entire time and was filthy the entire time. But during that time, I was thinking, and my dad is a professor here at New Mexico State, and he was telling me about a technology that he'd worked on a few years ago, and that was just kind of shelved here at NMSU. And it was this organic pesticide. And I was around onions the whole time. And I was like, well, what about a little organic onion? And so that's kind of when the gears started turning while I was working my booty off in the onion shed. So I came up with a business plan
We
while
would,
stacking bags of onions.
I believe we would call that pivoting. It sounded like
It was a beautiful pivot. It was a great
about
pivot.
to say you went from DC to onions to pesticide. That's what a wild story. I love it. Um, so what kind of research did you have to do to get into it? I know it sounds like your dad was somewhat familiar with the space. Did he kind of guide you into it, or did you kind of have to become an expert on pesticide rather quickly?
Yeah, it was a very steep learning curve. Let me tell you. The what I actually got involved in the beginning was learning the EPA regulation for pesticides, which is insane. So that's kind of where I started off, and then I gradually started to learn more and more about pesticides and like what's out there right now, how they work, what kind of forms of delivery there are. And so yeah, it was a very steep learning curve. I'm still learning things every day. It's unbelievable. Just yesterday, I was just blown away by how much more there's going on here than I knew in regards to pesticide testing. So very steep learning curve. Yes.
Did what did you find it surprising? Like coming from college, did what you learned kind of just slot in immediately, and did it kind of surprise you how it applied to this field, or was it a little more jarring?
It was so funny. So I wrote a business proposal and entered a business competition here at NMSU with kind of based on this technology. And I was like, yeah, we'll probably be in the market in about 6 months or so because it's such an awesome product. And about 2 months later, I learned it's at least a 2-year registration process with the EPA. So it was very jarring. If you
It's funny how that stuff can work out. So are you still in that approval process right now?
Yeah, so I kind of backed it up because I kind of jumped into that approval process, hired a consultant in DC, and was starting to jump through those hoops. And then I participated in a NSF ICOR program. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
It's kind of a market validation program that's sponsored by the NSF, and it's really market driven. So it lets you go talk to potential customers and see what they need, what their needs are, what pain points aren't being solved. And so after completing that, I think I just got a much better understanding of the market and kind of realized that I had not set up any of the tests that would actually benefit farmers. So I had really literally no data on, or no field data for with the market I'd be jumping into. And so I kind of backed off the EPA registration process and went after some more research money and got it. And now I'm able to do these efficacy tests. So we're still a bit away from the market, but we're making some really good progress. It's really exciting.
How did you come upon all of those tools that you just talked about? You talked about having a consultant. You talked about the NSF group. How did you find those and realize that those were tools that were going to help you accomplish this?
So Arrowhead and C2G here helped immensely. One of the business competitions I won gave me some money, so I had some seed money, if you will, to hire the consultant. There was actually a really good EPA regulations consultant in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who I was able to get in touch with, and he's actually kind of done one of these projects before, so he knew exactly what I needed. He ended up getting a bit sick and got me in contact with this consultant in the EPA. So that's how I ran across this guy. And then the ICOR program, I participated in a regional ICOR program in El Paso over the summer, which turned out to be really pretty impressive. I was fairly skeptical going in, but it really was just purely market driven, saying, what does the market want? Is your research worthless? Or would somebody actually buy it? And that was huge, and I was super impressed. And I got invited to apply to the national program, and we got in. And so that's kind of how I stumbled across that one too.
Oh, wonderful! Now that original seed money, is that all you have used so far as funding? Was that the only way that you funded to move forward with this project?
No, so that was the beginning, and things were real tight with that seed money. There's really not much of it. So I supported myself by going to school. I took out a bunch of student loans, so I didn't have to actually make money yet. So I went and got my master's because I graduated the semester after I got that business money. And so I supported myself through student loans, and then started writing grants and proposals. And I got that NSF one, which was $50,000 to do that study. And then I got a new one out of New Mexico for another $50,000, and that's the money I'm using now to set up these efficacy tests.
Oh, congratulations! Sounds like you're doing really well. With you moved very quickly into the space of being able to successfully write grants.
Oh yeah, well, it took a while. The first attempts were so embarrassing. Awful.
I love how self-aware you are.
Oh yeah, the people I sent it off to were like, whew.
Okay, here's how to actually do it.
First draft. That's not a first draft, man. That's my final product.
Well, it sounds like at least some people gave you some honest feedback, which I'm assuming was quite helpful.
Oh yeah, no, huge. Yes, people have been awesome. They've been helping me so much.
That's good. That's great. So it sounds like we more or less covered how you got to this point. What is the goal from here? How are you gonna who are basically going to be your consumers of this new pesticide? Where are you going to go find your customers?
So I think our beachhead is going to be in the Salinas Valley. They're called the salad bowl of the world. And that's also in organics too. So they have, I think, like 80% of salad makings comes from Salinas Valley. And the big pain point we found through this NSF grant was in organic spinach. There's this pest called downy mildew, which is this fungal disease. And currently farmers are losing up to 70% of their crop due to this fungus. And it's worth it because they can mark the spinach up like crazy. So they make a ton off an acre, like almost 200% more than they could off any other veggie.
Oh, just because spinach production is so volatile because of this.
That and there's only certain areas of the country that can produce organically grown spinach.
Ah, okay.
So they almost have the monopoly on the market there.
So it's not the scarcity just from the mildew. It's just the environment that is required to grow spinach is so rare.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's the Salinas Valley and then Yuma, Arizona. So they currently like how they're solving that problem right now is just planting a bunch of different varieties of spinach. So they plant 6 or 7 varieties, and then if they're lucky, they get 4 of them that are resistant to mildew. But I guess on average it's about three out of the 7. And then mildew mutates so quickly that it's so hard to keep up with. So that's where we're going to focus on. That's where a bunch of these tests are going to be taking place, or is in Salinas with some labs out there.
Oh, great! So you're targeting this organic pesticide specifically for this mildew.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Has your testing started up, or are you about to move into that phase?
Just about to move into it. Just got that money, so trying to spend it now in California.
That's great. Now, are you doing all of this via proxy from New Mexico, or are you traveling frequently to go oversee it?
So I did a bunch of traveling through California, go to talk to these customers, potential customers. We'll probably make another trip out there to kind of oversee the initial testing and kind of talk about the product, but mostly via New Mexico. A lot of phone calls. I have learned to be super annoying and persistent. So I think it's easier to talk to me than to ignore me now.
Do you have was that a bit of a learning experience as well? Like, do you have any tips for people out there who are trying to track down customers and kind of build a relationship?
Yeah, it's so I found it so much easier to be face to face. To let a little bit of personality come across, and then just keep after it. There was the biggest organic farmer in California wouldn't talk to me on the phone and wouldn't set up an appointment for me, and I trespassed 3 times, and I finally found him at lunch eating and sat down and talked to him.
Now, would you recommend everyone go and trespass, or was this a special situation?
It was the first time I did it, so I'm 1 for 1. So yeah, I mean, I had no terrible experiences so far. No cops have showed up.
Trespassing is a strong word. Maybe walk-in. Maybe we'll call you a walk-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no dodging of security guards at all on my part.
Yeah, I recall doing that once as well when I was fresh out of college to try and get a job, and ended up getting an interview, and the people were so amazed that someone actually showed up in person with a printed physical resume and portfolio. That they were like, we haven't seen this in years.
Did you get the job?
I didn't, sadly, no. Oh. They wanted someone who was more fluently bilingual, but still, it was that is an interview experience that will always stick in my head. So as far as actually creating the pesticide itself, what is it like as far as, I guess, vendors to provide the materials that you use to make it? How was that like?
So it's pretty fun. It's a pretty simple. The key ingredient's pretty common. It's an essential oil, like I said. So you can go through. There's so many people you can buy it from. One cool aspect of this project is we've been trying to work with Mexico, because there's a ton of this plant grown wild down there, and so I've been working with a nonprofit to try to stimulate some economic gains from this for an indigenous group down there called the Seri, and they have this plant grown everywhere wild, and so we wrote a proposal to put a little distillation unit down there. So it was a really fun sort of project as well, trying to figure out how we can have like sort of a fair trade supplier, because that's kind of the whole idea of this product is it's good for the environment, and it's good for the economy.
Right. I mean, I'm like, I know nowadays. I come from a family that runs a extermination company, so I know that there are plenty of organic alternatives nowadays. But you and I, our age group growing up, pesticides just it's a word you hear and you have a negative connotation. So the more you can do to kind of make it more of a positive thing, that's obviously going to work in your interest.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because there is this massive recoil against pesticides and the word pesticide. And so people are like, wait, so organic farmers actually use pesticide? Is that safe? So it is really fun, kind of helping people get educated on what they're eating.
Yeah. What was it like working with a nonprofit?
It was grant writing once again.
Oh, okay.
And it was pretty early on in the process, so it was pretty tough. But it's good. They do a lot of good work down there. And that's still kind of in the development. We haven't done too much work. Planning a trip down there to kind of check out the facility. See, I guess there's a big warehouse down there that we could potentially use.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's been really good. I've been really impressed with them.
So in terms, it seems like your whole story has been you just reaching a new level of I'm not sure what I'm doing and just attacking it. And do you think that's a good way to head into things, because it seems to be working out really well for you?
Oh, I mean, wish I knew more about what I was doing for sure. It would have been a lot easier. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I have had some really good advice though. A few of these consultants have really stepped up and helped me and seen kind of, oh, he's in college. He doesn't quite know what he's doing. So we're taking a bit of extra time and kind of explain things to him. And then there's a ton of resources out there that you can just read about, and you can build up your knowledge through the internet. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure. If you don't mind getting rejected over and over again, I would recommend this route.
Thick skin is always a good thing to either have already or develop over time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, as coming from a graphic design background, the mantra "fake it till you make it" was always just running around in my mind. Hey, do you know how to do typesetting? Yeah, I fired up InDesign once. Sure. And just diving in, and within a month, now I know how to typeset. So it's not a terrible place to be in, just as long as you're ready for it, as long as you're ready for the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of have to know going in. It's going to be a little bit more difficult if you don't know what you're doing.
Now, as far as kind of networking and learning as you go, and dealing with new partners, probably it sounds like one after the other. You've had to rapidly expand your network and work with a lot of different people. Are you someone who it kind of comes naturally to work with someone else, or are you more on the control side of things, where you like to micromanage everything?
I think it comes naturally to interact with others. It's great for me too, because I don't have to micromanage, and I can't really micromanage in a lot of these projects because the people I'm working with are so much more knowledgeable than I am in these certain areas. So it's nice being able to go out and find somebody who can actually do this work for you and do it better than you could ever do it.
Oh, that's great. It's something me personally, I always was just kind of like working by myself as just a graphic design contractor, and in recent years had to quickly get better at delegating and working with others. So it's nice to hear that that's a natural.
Also, it's nice learning that you do know less than everybody else in the field that you're working in, and so you actively look for partners.
Yeah,
or just really smart people,
Well, that's great. So before we kind of wrap this up, do you have an exit plan? Is this something you feel like you'll be sticking with for a long time into the future, or are you already looking at what the plan is down the road?
So we'll see. I think pending these test results, if they come back positive, like we hope they'll come back, we'll be able to fundraise, because we'll have a product that we have the customers say they'll buy it, and we'll have a product that actually works, and that doesn't really exist in this field that we're working in. So I would love to kind of start even potentially manufacturing it. It would be a lot more work, and we'd still have to see if we could actually work it out with the EPA and all that. But if not, we would try to license it to, or not license it, maybe partner up with a manufacturer who already has that network and the trucks to deliver it. And then if that's too complicated, we'll just license it out and sell the business and start something new.
Oh, well, great. Sounds like you have some options, which is good.
So you asked about a website. I'm building that, but I'm building it for a Kickstarter campaign as well. I got sponsored for a video, and it's a great video. That's another thing I learned. I'm a terrible actor, and it took a whole day to get like maybe 30 seconds of me talking. So
I wouldn't know if you hadn't said it. You've been doing great here. So.
Oh man, but man, the big camera gets on you. Oh, it's terrifying. So that's one thing people can go look at when it launches. It's going to launch later this month.
How has it been learning the Kickstarter? Because that's a space that I'll be going into soon as well. So I've been doing a lot of Kickstarter research as well, and it's daunting how many resources there are to go learn the best way to kind of tackle Kickstarter, and also it can depend wildly on what your product is.
Yeah, Ours is tricky because we got sponsored for this campaign, and we don't have a product yet. It's still in the development phase. So it's we're kind of selling the idea of making the world greener, kind of going with the green idea, and so that's been really interesting. But you're right, it is. There's so much stuff going on, so much prep before the campaign's even launched.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of the things when I first started researching that I realized that anyone out there who have not done a Kickstarter before, they probably aren't even close to ready to launching it, because once you hit that button, immediately your window is set. You have a start and an end, and you need to make that. So yeah, most of the time I feel like going into a Kickstarter should be spent in the preparation stage.
Yeah, and it gets busy. It gets real busy. And you're banking on those 2 days.
Absolutely.
First 2 days of the campaign, you're hoping you get a lot of hits on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you planning to market the Kickstarter, get word out for it?
So there's a lot of cool tech blogs out there that have on YouTube, especially on YouTube, and then tech blogs that get so many hits a day. We're contacting them to see if they would write a little blurb about what I've been doing, and then mentioning the Kickstarter, or kind of maybe give it like 30 seconds on a YouTube video or so. So that's kind of the route I've been going, because the whole goal is just to get people to see your campaign. I think you get about 1% of people who look at it as fund a Kickstarter. So you have to get so many people directed there.
Yeah, it's really just a numbers game at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to figure out exactly how it works.
Yeah. So we'll see if it's a success. It's a lot. I mean, once again, I'm learning a lot about myself, and then about crowdfunding. I think it's a really cool platform for sure.
Yeah. Any recommendations for people following a similar path as to how to reach out to these tech blogs and YouTube channels to get featured, to have a feature written or recorded about their product?
Persistence. Once again, if you're annoying enough, people will generally start talking to you. But be polite. Be very polite in your annoyance.
I like that you start with persistence, which is like what the school would say if it was a more traditional learning environment. And then you're like, well, what it really is.
You're just so annoying.
Be professionally annoying.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Luke, it's been great talking to you. I wish you best of luck in your endeavors. Anywhere else people can find you? Is your Kickstarter link up and running quite yet?
No, it's not. We haven't launched it yet. So Twitter, EcoSeal LLC, and then Facebook. Those are in production. I have an account. I just have not done much with it yet. So we'll start posting a few things, especially in preparation for this Kickstarter, and then take the camera with me on some of these trips. I get into some pretty interesting situations, so I think it'd be pretty fun to document those.
From your stories already, I would immediately want to watch those videos. So.
I don't know. They're a little scary.
Well, thank you again, Luke, and everyone check out EcoSeal.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Have a good one.
Bye bye.